and love myself, and you give power and influence to the wrong people, look how it turns out. You have to hype yourself up when nobody else on the external is hyping you up. You have Hey guys, welcome back to Ascension with V. I'm your host, Stashia Jeanette, aka V, and today I'm going to talk about something that has been very, very personal for me, very, very long-lived for me this incarnation, and that is leaving the abyss, and specifically what happens when you're addicted to your own darkness, what happens when you're addicted to staying in the chaos, when you're comfortable with the chaos, when you're comfortable with the pain, when you're comfortable with the dysfunction, with the scarcity, the lack, the being isolated, the not having support. These are all things that again I'm fresh out of, and so what better time to kind of dive into this topic than right now. As usual, I've made some notes, and I'm going to go through as efficiently as possible to talk about kind of the high points of things here. And let's just dive right in with a question that I've had to ask myself frequently during my time of going from the abyss into the light, and even recently. And it was, what if the thing that you're calling your personality is just your pain dressed in survival mode? What if you're afraid of being bored, but that boredom is your peace? Right? We do have this thing again of where, because you get so used to the shitty, feeling really shitty, feeling down, that the things that are good for us are scary, that the things that we desperately want become things that run us in the opposite direction because of, it's uncomfortable, it's unfamiliar, it's not what we've been accustomed to this lifetime. So personally, for me, I always try to give my little backstory on what things were like for me. I would say up until maybe 4 or 5 months ago, I was kind of fighting against the currents of just allowing myself to be happy, just allowing myself to be calm, just allowing myself to have some peace. And we say it so frequently, like, oh, I just want peace, I just want peace, I just want peace. But then when you get the peace, it's like, what happened? Like, did I make a wrong turn? Am I stalling out or something? Is this stagnancy? What's happening here? Um, the flip side of it was us being on the front lines. Personally, like, how it has been for me is I've been on the front lines of the spiritual warfare for every incarnation, essentially, both just spiritually and both physically. And this incarnation has been very interesting in the fact of being fully anchored into a physical vessel and being on the front lines of spiritual warfare from birth to now, and I kind of gave an example on my friend Anna's podcast once, that it was like switching from kind of playing one of those like first person shooter games like Call of Duty, or what was it, Battlefield or something like that. Anyways, Halo, something of a first-person shooter game, right? You're used to playing Call of Duty, and then all of a sudden, after playing Call of Duty for years upon years upon years upon years, consistently nonstop, the game switches, and you're just playing Animal Crossing now, or you're like playing leisurely Monopoly, or you're playing like leisurely like a farming game. You know what I'm saying? It's like very chill. You can kind of play it on auto mode, and you can leave the game going and come back, and your person's just still like bopping around happily. The neighbors in Animal Crossing are just coming up and interacting with you, like, hey, so I saw you changed up your outfit or something. Like, it's like unfathomable things, because while you were playing Call of Duty, if you turned your head for a second, somebody has come up and, like, pop, 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 gone, you gone. Lost 5 lives in a blink of an eye because, you weren't paying attention to the game. So the comparison that I always give of the video game situation and the switching of the video game is this, because it's very relatable. Everybody likes to play Call of Duty, so everybody knows what I'm talking about when I say this. You have to be so locked in when you play Call of Duty. Like, There's no room for error. There's no room for you to be lax. There's no room for you to be like caught lacking, because people will catch you slipping, and and then you've lost it for your whole team. So essentially that's how I've felt being on the front line, being, in the leader position for the 250. Like, it was me looking out for my squad. It was me looking out and making sure that I don't fumble the bag for everybody that's to come behind me, to make sure that I get to the next checkpoint for the sake of others coming after me. You know what I'm saying? And it was me making sure that I could get myself and my men out. And it's an immense amount of pressure. It's an immense amount of being in that ultimate survival mode constantly. And in the same way that you are when you're playing Call of Duty, and you're making sure that, you don't take your eyes off the screen, and you're looking, and you're always strategically planning, and you're always trying to account for the opposition's next move, or, where could there be a turret laid? Where could there be a bomb laid? Where is their motion sensor at? Where is somebody coming in with the Wilson? Like, is there going to be an air raid at any point? These are the things that when you play Call of Duty, you're constantly thinking of, where's the next hiding spot? Where do I need to go? How do I get from point A to point B in one piece, but also my men? And how do we win this thing? That constant on your toes thinking mentality, ultimate survival mode that I'm really relating to here. And that's what it was like for me personally in the abyss constantly, especially over, like, I'd say the last 5 to 6 years of it was the worst for me, where I was really kind of like, if you put it on super advanced level of Call of Duty, that's what it was like for me. So being in that mentality, and then all of a sudden the game switches, like while you're mid fire, and you're like pop, 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 and then all of a sudden you're hearing like the Animal Crossing intro. You're like looking around, and there's no more battlefield. There's no more opposition. There's no more, air raids. There's no more Wilsons coming in. There's no more, booby traps. There's no more campers. Like nothing, none of this nature is happening. It's just, you're like harvesting fruit, and you're going to Tom Nook's to sell whatever fruit that you've harvested, and some seashells, and like maybe you're gonna craft a dresser for your house. Like it's a huge shift. It's a huge adjustment, and it's very foreign, triggering, and it can make you feel like, did we miss an exit? Did we take a wrong turn or something? For the longest I felt like I did something wrong, because there was no like action happening. It was just very quiet, still. It was a lot of nothingness, much like if you've ever taken a cruise and you go out onto the top deck, and you at nighttime, and it's just nothing but just darkness. Like, it's just a abyss and void space out there, and you can hear the waves, and the ships creating the waves, in the water as it's cruising along. But essentially that's it. That's all you hear is ocean, waves, and nothingness. And this is the kind of stillness that I was immediately smacked with, like I said, kind of mid game, and it's jarring. And it freaks you out. It freaked me out. It made me feel like this is a trap. It really did. It made me feel like, oh, this is a trap. Something's wrong. They're like, what is this? This is a new stage of the game. Oh, they've upped the level. So I was thinking immediately, this is calm before the storm. Like, I got to get prepared. I got to get ready. So, they must be getting ready to launch an attack, kind of thing. And I felt that way for a couple of months. Like a good couple of months, where I was just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And then eventually God's source universe was like, you gotta stop. You gotta stop. You gotta calm down. Relax your butt. Relax your cheeks. Unclench your cheeks, man. It was this, because it's almost like I was holding my breath for a really long time, trying to I don't know. It felt like I couldn't comfortably breathe. And so I spent a lot of time after that sitting in the stillness, trying to force myself to fully submerge into the experience, to fully surrender to the stillness, to the silence, to the calmness, and to analyze whatever feelings that I was experiencing at that time, and question why I was feeling the way that I was feeling. Why do I feel uneasy with this? And when I started to dig more and more into that question, why do I feel the way that I'm feeling from this? Why do I feel uneasy about this stillness? Immediately the first thought that came up was like, because it feels like a trap. Because it feels like something's gonna happen, like, because it's not supposed to be, it's never been this quiet, valid reasoning, at no point was that an invalid reason to feel on edge and uncomfortable about the recent changes that I was experiencing, right? But nonetheless, it was still something that had to be looked into, dive deeper into, to understand and to unpack. And I asked myself furthermore, so I feel more comfortable in survival mode then. And it was a very fast yes, yes, yes. And because that's all we've known, right? This was my internal dialogue. This is my internal reasoning of it. Yes, because this is all we've known. That's all we know. All we know is war, survive, overcome, adapt. Like, that's what we know. That's our normal. How do we improvise? How do we survive? How do we overcome this? How do we adapt from this? How do we evolve from this? How do we make sure that we are okay, our squad is okay? How do we get out of here? Right? We've never had time to just be like, oh, look at that nice flower over there. We've never had time to just sit and enjoy the roses and look at the clouds and think about how we're feeling on things. And I've said this on a past episode of what happens after spiritual warfare, and it's kind of like bleeding in here of when you're on the front lines of things, you don't have the luxury of sitting and acknowledging your emotions and processing anything that's happening in your personal life while you are on the front lines. Like, your own personal traumas, mishaps, series of unfortunate events that you may go through while you're in war goes by the wayside, right? Like, you cannot afford to have a mental or emotional breakdown in the middle of a battlefield, right? So, like, again, let's go back to the Call of Duty example. If you're in the middle of the game, like, you can't pause the game mid game. It's a live game. It's you and your teammates. Like, you gotta see that through until the game is over. And this is the same here. It's, if you are in the middle of a mission, like, you got to focus on that mission. You got to get it done. You got to continue to press forward regardless what's happening. That was kind of the thing. That was also something that hit me really, really hard after I got into the place of calmness. I always say that, like, God's source universe got a sixth sense of humor. Because, like, it be like, oh, okay, so I see you don't have time to deal with this right now, obviously, because you're in the middle of the mission, so we're just gonna suppress those memories, or we're just gonna allow you to get through this without feeling it too much until you've accomplished the mission, or you've gotten through X, Y, and Z. But then it's like, literally, the moment after the moment I got through that threshold of entering Animal Crossing land, like, that's when I started getting hit with a whole bunch of seemingly random emotions and feelings, like anger and rage and grief and sorrow and like a lot of pain, a lot of heart pain. Like, my heart was hurting quite a bit. And then I didn't get all the memories back. I think I've said this to you guys before, but there's like a large portion of each year that I don't remember. Trauma, I guess, is what has been explained to me as, is just a result of continuous trauma and PTSD and things of this nature. But I digress. Yeah, and so I didn't get all my memories back while all these emotions and things were flooding in, but, like, I got a a few clips and things that were associated to some of the pain that I was, like, the random heart pain that I was experiencing, or the random grief that I was experiencing. And at the time, I was like, "What's wrong with me?" And I was it's like I was having it's not even it's a like I was having the mental and emotional breakdowns that I did not have, or didn't allow myself to have, while I was going through the missions, while I was in the survival mode, while I was fighting for my life, every single year up until, again, like I said, like a year ago, essentially. So they were all coming back. This is, like I said, this is God's source universe being like, I see you're doing better now. Here we go. Because you have to you got to acknowledge the shit in order to get through it. Right. And you can't just drink it away, and you can't just pill it away. You can't just sex it away. You can't just overwork it away. Like I said, God's source universe is going to make you feel it and deal with it so that you can heal it and move on from it, whatever the it's are for you, at some point in time. And again, it's usually once you've reached Animal Crossing land, where things are calm, you're good, you're stable, you're safe, and you are able to now deal with the things. They kind of get reintroduced to you, in its entirety. And so for like a couple of months, I'd say about like 3 or 4 months, I was going through an immense amount of like emotional pain, a lot of heartache and pain. Like I had to put my oldest dog down last November, and like while I dealt with it, like I dealt with it, and I felt the pain, and I didn't, I was sober. I've been sober for some time now, but like I I didn't fully, I guess, get all of it out, because I was still trying to hold it together, I guess, for my mom, and for everybody else, and try to like trug us along through the finish line, right? Because I wasn't fully into Animal Crossing zone yet at the time, and so I was just trying to push forward as much as I could, to get us across that line, right? And so that came up, and I was like, oh, and so I did have like memories from him come through, and then I had just like random stuff like that pissed me off from when I was a kid, and I was like, oh, that MFer. And I never said anything to him, like shit from when I was like in like 8th grade, and somebody said something to me, and I was like, I should have knocked his ass out. Why did I not, and then times where I was like, why didn't I just say no to them? Or why didn't I just, push him or do this or do that? Like a lot of rage came up, like a lot of anger came up of things of, why did I allow people to do things to me that I should not have? Or why did I let that happen? Or why did I, not stand up for myself then? And it was just like a whole spiral of things that came up, where I was like, oh my God, like damn. And again, it's because you just don't understand how much you're dealing with when you're on the front lines of spiritual warfare, until you are through it and you are looking back at all the carnage and the disaster and the shrapnel and the destruction in its entirety, right? That lie behind you. You don't know. You don't realize how much you were in the thick of, while you're going through it, because it's just like I said, the goal is just to survive. The goal is to just get through it and push through and all these things, right? So people ask me frequently, what is the abyss? What really is the abyss? And I always give the example of, again, the Mariana Trench. You hear people say like, I was in the trenches, right? But like same, but like the trench for me and for everybody else really is, it's the Mariana Trench is the deepest, darkest depth of the ocean's surface, right? So I think it's like the Challenger Deep is the deepest point, and it's like you could put a bunch of Mount Everest in it, and it still would not reach the bottom of the Mariana Trench, the Challenger Deep. Yeah, but it's when you've reached full out. I don't want to say like the rock bottom, because rock bottom is a bottomless pit. Speaking from experience, rock bottom is literally a bottomless pit. A rock bottom is literally a bottomless pit. because I experienced where I was like, damn, I can't go any lower than this. And like the bottom just kept moving further. The bottom just kept going further and further and further and further down. And so finally I was like, well, this is clearly a wormhole. This is clearly some sort of this is a loophole. This is one of those infinite holes. So, but it's just where you've reached your lowest point in life, and you've kind of hit the F it button, and you're having identity loss, and you're having energetic depletion, and you're having the trauma attachments, as I mentioned, and then you're having the grief loops, and you're having the regrets, and the why did I do this, and why didn't I that kind of situations. I did write down some common signs that you may be in the abyss, and you may be attached to suffering. So your common signs are you feel more alive in chaos than calm, kind of like I've already mentioned, and that's so frequent. I know a lot of people who self-sabotage a whole lot of really good things, including myself. Like I did that frequently, and I didn't know that's what it was at the time. I didn't know that's what I was doing or why I was doing it. But anything that came like with calm and peace, like I said, it felt like a trap. Like, what is this? What are you doing? Why are you being nice? Why are you treating me well? Kind of situation when things like stillness and keep stillness, peace, and calm feel scary to you, but chaos, destruction, and pain feels good. That's when you know, like, oh, you in there deep. You in the you in the trenches deep. You sabotage anything that feels too good. You're terrified of being ordinary, or like having an ordinary life where you're not just constantly, like for me, I was going back and forth to the damn hospitals every year. I was having a surgery. My life was falling apart. Guys were in and out of my life, and my family dynamic was just terrible. Everything, like, it was chaos. So anytime that you get outside of that, if you feel like, oh, I've got the house with the white picket fence and everybody's just walking their dog and it's Animal Crossing land, and you hate Animal Crossing land, it's because you've been accustomed to being in the Mariana Trench. Yeah. And so again, I had written the concept of identity addiction to suffering. Yeah, it's a thing. When you don't know who you are without pain, you keep inviting it back into your life to feel like who you used to know. But like here's the thing. You in survival mode is not who you really are. And it's only once you get to Animal Crossing land of peace and calmness and stillness and safety that you start to discover who you are. And it's like a boring process. It's scary and unfamiliar. And I've said this to so many people recently, where I'm like, there's nothing wrong. Like, you're crying and whining and being upset over the fact that you have peace. You're like, oh, well, like, I'm bored and there's nothing to do, and it's just there's nothing happening, and like, no, there's not anything happening, and you're also not getting the soul sucked out of your life by an energy vampire or a job that was literally draining the life out of you. You're being given an opportunity to find out who you are, number one, and what it is that you want to do from this point forward, and to then step into the role of your highest self and fulfill your soul's purpose and mission, right? Because let's not get it confused. Your soul purpose and mission isn't just to come here and be on the front lines of the spiritual warfare, right? Like, you did that part, but you also came here with other missions, right? You also came here with like a soul purpose and mission, and those are your passions. That's what lights you up and brings you joy and makes you happy. And again, after you've spent your entire life, an incarnation, this incarnation, or multiple incarnations, just in the bad, just in the front lines, just in the suffering or the living for others situation, it will take you some time to adjust to that not being the case any longer, and then allowing yourself to accept that, right, as your new norm, in order for you to start learning who you are and what makes you happy and what it is that you want to do from this point forward, right? Like, it is not an overnight process. It is not something that is meant to be like so super thrilling and exciting every single day, right? But it eventually you will get to the point of where you're like, oh, okay, this is all right. So what is it that I like doing, right? This time of stillness, this time of peace and chaos-free living is meant for you. It's meant for your happiness. It's meant for you to take the paintbrush and to paint whatever artistry, tapestry, or life that you want to create for yourself at this point in time, right? Like, that's what you're meant to be doing. You don't have to, fight it. You don't have to continue to fight just having peace. The version of you that thrives in survival doesn't want to die, but your soul is ready to live. It's like the very thing that your soul wants, your survival self tries to run from. Your survival self tries to fight against, and resistance is futile because once you reach the Animal Crossing level, like that's where you're at. That's you don't go back. Once you get into Animal Crossing, you just got to surrender to that process and figure out again what makes you happy. You're gonna have to start selling some fruit. You got to start getting very familiar with the neighbors and Tom Nook and catching fish and selling the seashells and crafting things, right? Like, this is your new life. Upgrading your home and buying nice furniture and building things. Like, this is it. This is the new life. Right. Going back to Animal Crossing, I recently got to the point of where, like, essentially I got to, I did all the things of getting the little celebrity guy to come to the island and put the concerts on every Saturday. And essentially, once you get to that point, you've done the bulk of the game, and everything after that is just kind of you deciding what you want to do from there, which came in perfect alignment with where I'm at currently in my life, where I'm like, now what? When I tell you guys, this is something that I'm actually going through, like, in real time. This is really is very fresh. So I chuckled the other day when I was like, the fact that I'm not only in the game, like, what am I supposed to do now, but also in real life, I'm like, what am I supposed to do now? Really just kind of sent me, because it does. And so it brings me to the end here. The last talking point that I had is what it means to leave the abyss. Kind of what I've already said. Leaving the abyss is not a fun time. It's like not some glamorous party that you experience. It's grief, it's anger, it's boredom, it's shaking hands, it's lonely mornings, it's asking frequently, what do I do now? What am I doing today? I'm just watching TV today, or, oh, I'm just resting. And let me pause here, because rest seems like a really difficult thing. Just from my own personal experience, just resting. I have HEDS, hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and I'm learning. I'm just now starting to work with somebody who's like obviously specialized in this, and doing too much, as God's Source Universe has been telling me prior to me meeting with the specialist person for it. But they've been telling me frequently, you got to stop doing too much. Stop fighting the rest. Stop fighting the just being still. Stop fighting the do nothingness, or because it's messing you up. And sure enough, the specialist is kind of saying the same thing. Like, there needs to be like a week where you don't really do much, because you're doing all this, that, and the third, and it's putting not only your mind and your energy, but like your body is exhausted and on burnout, and now it's putting you at risk for dislocations and injuries. So yeah, you need to set it on down. So that's what leaving the abyss is like. Leaving the abyss is a lot of really easy mornings and days of kind of just chilling, of kind of just figuring out, what am I going to do today? What do I want to do tomorrow? Hey, what now? It's a lot of asking, what now? Peace requires retraining your nervous system to feel safe in stillness. Again, I've already kind of hit on this. Stillness feels like a cage. when you're used to constant on the go, when you're used to battlefield, when you're used to constant action, where you're used to, people shooting at you constantly, people coming at you constantly, somebody being after you, having to duck and dodge and this and that. Stillness feels like very underwhelming. Stillness, peace, rest, ease feels slightly triggering, again, after you're used to Call of Duty. Going from Call of Duty to Animal Crossing is a huge change, a huge switch. Just to come full circle here, it's not an overnight thing, and you should absolutely give yourself an immense amount of grace and compassion while you're going through this process, because it's rough. It's rough. Your next level is boring at first because you have confused stability with stagnation. Right. So you think that when you reach the Animal Crossing zone, like I said in my own personal experience example, was once I got to Animal Crossing, I thought I did something wrong because I was like, why is nothing happening? What is this? What did I miss an exit? I thought that there was, sort of setup, like something's wrong here. And it's not that you're just stable and at peace, and that it's going to take a long time of retraining your nervous system, retraining your mind, retraining your body to be okay with stillness, to be okay with solace, to be okay with support. And I didn't note this, but I'm going to say it here. The support aspect of it, when you're used to being a lone wolf, or you're used to being, again, kind of in my own personal example, like the squadron leader, right? It was just me for a long time here in the physical. And so now, being at a point where there are other physical people who are coming into my life, wanting to interact with me on a regular basis, like it's borderline triggering for me. And it's not it's a me problem. It's a me problem. It's a me having to adjust to being seen, being wanted, being, yeah, I guess just seen. I mean, as you can see, like this is a real time experience for me that I'm talking about. Like, I have spent this entire incarnation isolated, essentially. It's just been me and the physical, as far as like any kind of like friends or close support physically. And so changing from that, where now there's people who want to come in and support me, and people who want, my guidance and advice, and people who want to work with me, and people who want to give to me and genuinely just like love and support me. It's weird. Like it's weird for me, and I do try to tell people like, hey, just give me a little while to um just bear with me while I'm acclimating to, number one, the fact that you can see me, and number two, that regular interaction with people. And I think the best thing to do in that situation, and just again, as I'm handling, is I do tell people up front, I will get back to you, but just give me some time, because I'm I'm tired. Heads is a real thing. It does require it takes a lot of energy out of you, but not only that, like, I'm doing an immense amount of spiritual work. My energy level is just trash most of the time. So I do try to make time to respond to people as soon as I can, but I also don't respond from a level of depletion. So if I don't get back to people in a couple of days, in a week, is because I just didn't have it energetically. And I think it's best for everyone going forward, like anyone who hears this, if you are not at a good energetic place, I've said this before, but if you aren't there, it's better to just not respond until you have healed and you have gotten to an energetic place of overflow, or at least an energetic place of positive abundance, right? So not from a place of lack or burnout energy, not from a place of irritation, not from a place of whatever the case may be, right? Like, if you're not in good standing energy and you're not well, don't put yourself out just trying to respond for somebody else's sake, because you're pouring from an empty cup and you're depleting yourself energetically, and we don't do that. So please know that. Some things that you can also do: nervous system regulation, doing some breath work, making sure that you give yourself time in stillness is the best, the best thing that you can do. I know it sounds like easier said than done, but like it's hard. It's hard when you're used to, again, constant action, to just sit, right? To just be still. Another thing, daily reminders. Peace is not punishment. Safety is not stagnation. Telling yourself this frequently, again, it's a process, and it does take time for your body to adapt to it. Also, journaling. Y'all are going to get tired of me talking about journaling, but journaling really is something that has helped me tremendously throughout every level and stage of my life. Again, I didn't have much time to process everything, but when I could write, I was writing in multiple journals. And then let's see. I feel like that's pretty much it. I've covered essentially everything, but I wanted to make this because it's something that I'm currently, it's fresh. It's a fresh experience, and I think a lot of people frequently get stuck in this feeling of, oh no, the chaos is where I'm familiar, so that's where I'll stay because it's that's all they've known. But listen, just because you were forged in chaos doesn't mean that that's where you're supposed to stay, right? The chaos built you, the chaos made you, kind of like a diamond formed under the pressure, right? Like you did become like a very shining raw diamond, right? But like you're not meant to stay in the dirt. You know, you don't have to stay there. You're meant to shine for all to see now. You're meant to be a beacon of hope and an example for others that are going through the same thing, to know that, hey, like you can get out the trench, you can get out the Mariana Trench, you can get out the abyss. And that's what you're meant to do. You're not meant to just stay in the chaos just because that's where it's comfortable. Again, at any point in time, once you start getting to the Animal Crossing land, when you start feeling that pull to go back to chaos, when you start, being surrounded with good people, don't start showing your ass and acting a fool just because you're used to the chaos and you want to go back to it. Don't become the toxic that don't become the toxin that you once tried to get away from once you're around good people. You know what I mean? And that's a real thing. You have to allow yourself to experience goodness in life open-armedly with open arms, and instead of you know sinking your heels in and acting out because it's uncomfortable and scary. And I did that frequently, where it was, like I would start I would start arguments with the guys that I was dating just because I was like, why is nothing happening here? Like it was just it was boring. It was boring, and it was peaceful. Again, I was young, I was 18, 19, 20, and I didn't know, but again, in hindsight now, I understand. I'm like, "Oh, that's what that was. Is this because I wasn't healed and I wasn't used to peace?" People will say, "Oh, I want love and I want peace," but then when they get it, they sabotage it because they don't know how to handle it. So it's really important for you to heal and to acknowledge where you're still wounded, and to do the work on yourself. And the work on yourself involves you just simply sitting in the stillness and asking yourself the questions that I've already mentioned in this podcast. Why do I feel triggered by good people, by support, by being wanted, by being truly seen, understood, and valued, by being loved, like fully unconditionally loved? What is it that scares me about these things? Why does the lack of chaos scare me? Why does the peace scare me? Why am I feeling triggered by the stillness and the peace and the solace? And when you can write those things out, look at it with your 2 eyeballs, your 3 eyeballs, and fully understand it and accept it, you're on your way to healing. You're on your way to being healed. You're on your way to healing that part of you that is just itching to go back to the chaos, to go back into the trenches, because that's where you were comfortable from. That's where you were born from, right? When you can get to the point to where you can wholeheartedly answer those questions and accept the answers that get jotted down on a piece of paper or that come to you in your mind, you're ready. You're ready for Animal Crossing, right? And yeah, If you are ready to apply to work one-on-one with me, you can do so, and we can dive into these questions together and explore those parts of yourself together. And I can help you with trying to get out of the abyss and out of the loop of chaos, the trap of chaos. Yeah. But it starts with you. It starts with your acceptance and introspection. Until next time, I'll see you. Peace, squad.